Hey guys, remember the original Season 4, Episode 4, Keepers of the House, and I was definitely really looking forward to this episode. I've really been enjoying the season so far. It's been different, but I've very quickly gotten used to it, and I think that the last episode, we officially set up the villain, and I really didn't know where this episode was going to go, and this was another really great episode. I really only have one complaint with this episode, and I'll get to that towards the end of this review, but overall, this was another really thrilling episode. I really thought that the season really is starting to kick into high gear. We really have a good idea of what's going on, and again, I like that it's not all because not all this is the cause of the Michaelsons. I like that this isn't their fault. But let's just get into this episode because I really am liking where we're going here. So we start off with Marcel. He is with Sophia. They're about to have sex, but he's interrupted by Vincent, who informs him that the kids never made it home. And, obviously Marcel's kind of perplexed about that because he did load all of those kids into the ambulance himself. He saw it happen, he did it all. How could it have gone wrong? And Vincent says that the ambulance is missing too, which that ending was fantastic. I love the way that ended in the last episode. But I love that we start off and immediately Marcel and Vincent knows something right is, there's just something wrong here. So we see Detective Kinney. He brings the children to lead acolytes, and he reveals the children are sedated, and he has already prepared them for the ritual. And I'm not gonna lie, I've liked Detective Kinney in the past, but he just isn't that threatening here. I just found him to be kind of wooden, honestly, and even though I do like Jason Dohring, I think he just works better as that detective. That's the kind of character I want to see him play. When he's given this role as the villain, I just don't believe it. I don't believe he's that intimidating. I don't believe that he's that scary, and I just didn't get that menacing presence that I wanted to. And, it's not exactly a problem because what happens at the end of this episode, but for me, I just didn't feel that menacing presence that I wanted to from him. Maybe it's because how good Lucien was last year, or even as good as Marcel was, or even, hell, go all the way back to, Dahlia in Season 2. Kinney just does not hold up at all, and I really was not looking forward to him being the villain, but he's given a token with their master's power saying he will need it for what's to come. He promises he won't let anyone, including his friend Vincent, from stopping them, and basically he's kind of being forced to do what, needs to happen. He can't really stop it from happening, so Klaus, Elijah, and Haley arrive with a very sick Hope. They were forced to go back to New Orleans, obviously, because that's the only way they would be able to cure her, and they're back at their compound where Vincent tells them that they can only stay until Hope is healed, then they need to leave. And I like that Vincent is very direct about that. Look, you can only stay here till... And it makes sense, too, obviously, they just kind of cause all these problems. So Vincent purifies Hope. He says the only gratitude he wants is to see them leave the city. Haley tells Hope to go to her father, but ravens then start falling all around them dead, so we now know what the poster's all about. As we know, the poster for this season is Hope surrounded by a bunch of dead ravens, and Hope asks if they can hear the whispers saying the same name over and over again, and Vincent says it's Creole, meaning the Hollow, and that's essentially the creature that is taking these kids, and he says that the Hollow's coming as Haley and Hope are surrounded in a perfect circle of dead ravens, and Hope is upstairs and the fever is back, but she's in no pain. She wants to see her father, but Klaus refuses as he is on a murderous rampage, and Haley says she will handle Marcel, and Elijah will see what he can do, and while Klaus stays with Hope, Elijah warns Haley that the Marcel that they knew is gone, and he is no ally. Unfortunately, they're just not going to be able to use him. He essentially he's very susceptible to the downfall of the Michaelsons, and he's played a big part in that, definitely. He, honestly, I think is one of the major components in it. I mean, think about it. He's the one who put them in that, he bricked up Klaus for 5 years. He put them in that sort of stasis thing that they were in. He would have killed them if it wouldn't have been for Rebecca. But Marcel is just no ally, and I think that's something that's an episode that we kind of see is starting to change a little bit, and I think that's something that Elijah needs to realize too. The thing is, things never be the same between Elijah and Marcel because Elijah is the reason Marcel turned against them, because he's the one, as we know, who stabbed Marcel, and Marcel will never forgive him for that as much as Elijah tries. That's just not going to happen. So Keelin is working with Freya to find a cure when Freya says she's going to New Orleans because Hope is still sick, and Keelin tells her to get her hands on some of Marcel's venom, and Keelin says she wants to pass on robbing the most deadly vampire on the planet, and Freya gives her a ring with a cure for her wolfism, but it's on the condition, and she helps her, and Klaus then comforts Hope, promising to take her anywhere in the world once this is finished, and again, their scenes are some of the best here. I think that Summer Fontana and Joseph Morgan just work so well together. It feels like these two are actually father and daughter. That's how good I think they really are in these scenes, and they really are proving to be some of the best, chemistry we've had from some of these actors. I mean, they really, I don't think, could have found a better actress. She's absolutely nailing it, but Hope says, as Haley told her, he loved New Orleans most of all. He admits that he once did, until he learned that putting your love in a place is a mistake, and I really loved this whole conversation here, because he talks about how putting your love in a place is a mistake, and if these walls remind him that it is people who are best suited to fill their hearts, and that's true. I mean, as we know, Season 1, Klaus was all about ruling New Orleans. I mean, he was in love with it. That's the reason why he returned to New Orleans. He wanted to, be the one to, to be the ruler of New Orleans and have his reign, but as he saw, all New Orleans does is just cause bitter turmoil, and that, it's not New Orleans that makes him happy, it's his family that makes him happy. He wants his family to be there, and I think it really does show how far Klaus has come, and Hope tells him she doesn't feel very good, so Vincent then brings in some witches to share that some of their kind has started making human sacrifice to this spirit called the Hollow. It's very dark, it's angry, and it's very powerful, and Elijah walks in saying it's a force his family plans to erase. He accused everyone in the church saying that he needs to talk to Vincent, and Elijah says that there are children's lives at risk, and Vincent angrily asks him why he suddenly cares about children, since he obviously didn't care about Davina when she died, and Vincent admits that he only sees Elijah as a merciless butcher, and Elijah doesn't care, saying he will be the devil himself, and I've said it before, I mean, when Elijah goes rogue and he doesn't have Haley by his side, he essentially is what Vincent just called him, a merciless butcher, and I love that Elijah is kind of proud of that title, because he will do anything to protect his family, and Vincent should make no mistake, he will violate everything sacred under the sun in the name of rescuing his niece. He doesn't care. If he has to kill a few people, if he has to mutilate some guys, if he has to, do what he can to infiltrate his way into the big easy, he will easily do that. So Vincent agrees to work with the Michelsons, but only if it's his way. So I like Vincent's loophole. I like the way he always has his way with them, but Marcel then meets with the witches, saying that they have lived in peace for 5 years, but now their problem has become his, and someone is taking children. They all know he has one rule that is non-negotiable, which is they do not mess with kids, and he points at the graffiti, saying someone knows who's responsible, and we see that his people are kind of starting to turn against him. One of the witch steps forward, saying they don't owe him anything. He is no friend to witches, and Haley, and I think it's interesting the way they're starting to kind of turn against him, but Haley pipes up in the background, understanding why they don't trust him, but one of those kids is her 7-year-old daughter, and she doesn't care about the past. She's just a mom asking them to help her, and she tells Haley about Laura, who wrote the same symbol in blood on her window, but this woman isn't a witch, she's actually a wolf, and as we know, Haley kind of betrayed the wolves. After Jackson died, especially, she betrayed the wolves. I'd say even before Jackson died, she did. She always kind of said, look, I'm a Michelson first, and then I'm second to the wolves, and the wolves, needless to say, are not happy with Haley. They carry a lot of animosity for her. There's just a lot of unresolved feelings there, and I did like the way we got into that. And she says that Laura ran off to the bayou, and Freya and Keelin are inside Marcel's place. Keelin wants to know why she won't tell her family about their secret project. She says they are overly sensitive when it comes to Marcel. They begin to search for a stockpile of Marcel's venom, and Freya then finds it safe in the wall. And basically, we see what they're doing. They're trying to do what they can to take down Marcel. So Vincent's then working on finding the source of a symbol from a witch that he took out the other day, and Elijah asks if this is the thing that haunts their minds, and if this thing is spoken in their minds, has spoken to him, and Vincent said he heard it, but he was able to shut it out, unlike other people. And Vincent says Elijah is simply just a liability, and Klaus tells Hope that he doesn't know where the hollow is, but it wants the other kids, and she can feel it, and he promises he won't let anything take her. And again, I like that Klaus doesn't have answers here. Like, he can't tell her, I don't know what the hollow is. He doesn't have any information about that, which is different than everything else that, we've seen so far. Every villain in this show has kind of been connected to Klaus. Marcel was because Klaus wanted to take over the city while Marcel wanted control. He was already ruling a city, and Klaus wanted to take his place. Season 2, we had Esther and Dahlia. That was direct bloodline of Klaus, as we know. Season 3, Lucian. That was because of a whole thing that went down with Klaus, and then there was Aurora. So this is really the first time that this isn't tied to Klaus, and I think it's interesting the way they're doing that. And he basically tells her he will keep her safe always and forever, and he won't let anything take her. And I love that even though he doesn't know, he can't really promise her anything, he's doing what he can to do that, because the one thing he wants for his daughter, and throughout the entire show, has been peace. He's always wanted his daughter to live a normal life so she doesn't become like him, and I think that's his biggest fear, is that he's worried that Hope is going to become like him. We know that from the first episode. So Vincent's then doing a spell. He sees Kinney and the Acolyte. Elijah asks him what he sees. Haley calls and learns Hope is sleeping, and Freya will be there soon with medicinal help for Hope. So Haley promises she will deal with this wolf and show her the error of her ways. As we know, the spell can't help Hope. It's actual medicine that they need to get her. So Marcel warns her Laura may try to kill her. Laura knows who she is and why she's there, and she apologizes, saying the children are as good as dead, and Haley then glares at her. So immediately we have this tension between these two, but Kinney then arrives at Vincent's to have a drink, and Kinney says it's a weird time for a drink, and they should be looking for those kids, and he pulls a gun on Vincent when he says this thing is not going to deliver on what it promised, and he says that he's wrong, and had Vincent just done what it asked him to do, things might have been different for him and Cammy, and all of them, and yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, this is all the direct cause of Vincent, and Kinney says that he can do one evil thing to rid all the evilness overrunning New Orleans, and Vincent offers to help, but Kinney informs them he is in the middle of what's to come, and Kinney says they send him there to retrieve Vincent. He shoots his gun, but Elijah jumps in, crouches down, telling Will that he is quite the evil monster inside of him, and asks if Kinney wants to see his. And again, you can understand why Kinney feels this way. Like, obviously, this is the hollow inside of Kinney. But again, I just didn't feel that menacing presence that Kinney had. I think this actor, he's kind of wooden in this role. He's better at playing that detective than he is at playing this character. It didn't feel convincing enough to me. I don't know if you guys felt differently, but to me, I just was not convinced that he was as evil as the show was presenting him to be. But in the quarters, Klaus tells the sleeping Hope to listen to him. He tells her the hearts that beat in her chest is a warrior's heart, the heart of a Michelson, and whatever hold this power has over her, it is nothing compared to her strength. And he continues to tell her that her power is greater than she knows, and he pleads with her, removes the bracelet that her mother gave her to withhold her powers, and Hope then wakes up telling him that she saw the other kids and they're so scared. She makes him promise if he ever sees the blue lights to not look at them, and she then falls back asleep. So again, I love the bonding here. I love the way Klaus is really trying to help her through this, and I think that definitely, again, is some of the highlights of this entire season. So Freya can't open the safe. Keelin tells her to go help her niece, and she will crack the safe. She promises to meet her wherever she tells her to, and Elijah's unable to break into Kinney's mind. He tries all he can, but Vincent says he can break him, but it will take time, and he says Kinney is just as much a victim as all those kids, because obviously Kinney didn't ask for this. It's just something that Kinney is transformed into, and Haley says that they aren't there to hurt her. Laura says she didn't know that they would involve children, revealing that it is those who serve the Hollow, followers of the Blue Light, and she thought that they were doing a good thing, trying to take back their city, back from the vampires, and she said it's not Marcel's city to rule, as New Orleans belongs to all of them, and yes, I very much agree with that. Marcel, as much as he wants to feel he's in control, I've said it before, he's up against an enemy that he just can't explain, and that's just far beyond his reach. I mean, this is not something that Marcel can just deal with on his own, and we know in the first episode, that's something Marcel has wanted to do. He has kept this, he has kept things relatively peaceful, and he's kept things in a place where they do have this truce, and that the vampires and the werewolves, they haven't really intervened till now, but the Hollow is really threatening to disrupt that, and that's really something that Marcel can't do on his own. I like that Laura is agreeing with that. So, basically, Laura chastises Haley for vanishing on her pack after she asks Laura why she didn't turn to the pack for help. Haley says that she had a child to take care of, and she is one of the kids in danger, and she begs Laura to help them. So Laura bursts out laughing, saying that they can help the kids. The Hollow wants power, and the kind that only comes from sacrifice, and those kids will die so he can get stronger. And basically it will feed and it will rise, and they will all bow before it. And she says she won't be here to see it, and then kills herself. Yeah, literally Laura kills herself, which was really shocking, but you can really tell that Laura, she lost a lot of hope. I mean, she's clearly seen a lot of what these kids have been through. She knows how powerful the Hollow really is, and unfortunately, that just corrupted her to just, basically just not give her a point in living, and she just ended herself, which was crazy to see. But Vincent tells Elijah that he's the one who gave the Hollow breath, and he doesn't know what he did to bring it into this world, but he isn't going to let him take it out. And Will then suddenly jumps out of his restraints. He pulls out his necklace, throwing Vincent and Elijah in the air. Vincent tells Elijah that he tagged him with magic so they can't trace him, and in the bayou, Vincent and Elijah meet with Klaus, who is furious about not knowing what it is. And Vincent tells him that the kids are attached to that spell, and if they save the kids, they will save Hope. And Marcel says that the sooner they do this, the sooner the Michaelsons can leave, because obviously he wants them to just leave. They came, they had this agreement where they will only stay until Hope is better. So Marcel and Klaus are walking together, arguing. Marcel says he cares about finding the kids and erasing the messed up people who took them, root out the problems, and make them go away. That is what you do when you're the king. That's what he's supposed to do. And Klaus informs that he has no intention of being king. He has learned his life is better spent with his child. And I would agree, Klaus is just not capable of doing such a thing. All of his plans usually are blow up in his face, most times at least. I mean, sometimes definitely I think all of his plans, he's been on like the right idea, but they all seem to blow up in his face. They all seem to have these very bigger external consequences that no one really thought of, and I think Klaus just doesn't want his daughter attached to that. So now he's really starting to rethink things. He doesn't want to be king anymore. But Marcel can have fun proving he is a better king. And I like that. I like he's giving Marcel this title. Look, you're supposed to be king. That's what you're meant to do. You've led them for 5 years while Klaus has been just chained up and basically just been his slave. So Klaus just doesn't see himself as a king. And I think it's going to take a while for Klaus to see himself as that. He just kind of wants that life with his family. And as, impossible as that is, I like that Klaus isn't as focused on being king. In the beginning of the show, that is what Klaus would have said, but because of how he's, because of him being chained up 5 years, he's had a lot of time, I think, to think about what he really wants. And I think through Cammy, seeing visions of Cammy and Hope, and, seeing what it did to his family, I think it just made him realize that the one thing that matters to him most is his family, and that's really the one thing that takes principle over everything else. So Elijah, Haley, and Vincent are together trying to figure out how to kill the bright blue light, and Freya's then home working on concoctions to heal Hope. While in the woods, the ritual has actually begun. Kinney then shows his medallion to the lead acolyte, who welcomes him, telling him to join them as they reclaim their power and their rightful place, and he plans to lay waste to all those who would deny their master. Kinney says he knows what he has to do. He isn't afraid. Klaus grabs a bone off the tree. He throws it, piercing the acolyte in the chest, and Vincent grabs the kids. Kinney pulls out the medallion and drags Marcel to the altar. Klaus then grabs Kinney, snaps his neck, and Kinney's dead, which I was honestly fine with, because like I said, I just didn't see Kinney as that menacing presence, so I'm not upset they killed him off. Vincent screams out. Klaus and Marcel are locked inside a circle of fire. He says this was a trick to get them to channel their power to come into this world. The kids are alive, but they are still linked to the ritual, so it's not over. I mean, sure, it's not inside of Kinney anymore, but the Hollow is still out there, and they can't free Marcel and Klaus by breaking the spell. They just can't do that, so we can only break it by killing one of the kids, and Haley says there has to be another way, because he obviously does not want to kill children. So Vincent suggests staking Elijah. He will die temporarily, and hopefully that will break the spell. So meanwhile, Klaus and Marcel are in another world where the mask of the Hollow is laying with blue inside, and Klaus tells Marcel to shut his eyes. Vincent attempts a spell, channeling Elijah's power. Haley then stakes Elijah. Vincent confirms that it works, and Freya then feels it at home too, and Hope then sits up, tells Freya that they are not cold anymore, and it seems like everything is okay. So the kids are reunited with their parents. Vincent smiles, overlooking the reunion. Haley watched from the balcony, telling Marcel a lot of tragedy has happened there, a lot of regret, but Hope was born there, so there is good with all the bad, and she hopes that the city being his gives him some peace, that by having those people on his side, he has all these people, he's in a really good position right now, and I would agree, definitely. So she says goodbye to him, but he asks her to to tell Hope that she never needs to fear him. And I thought it was really nice the way he actually said that. Look, as much as I do have this hate for you, there's no reason for him to hate Hope. You know, she hasn't done anything. She's very innocent. She's stayed away for 5 years. There's no reason for him to hold any animosity towards Hope. And I really like Sneha. I like that he told her, that, Hope can trust him. So Freya's glad that Keelin showed up. Keelin says that from where she comes from, when someone gives you their word, they keep it. And she's Team Michelson whether she wants it to be or not, basically. So Freya takes her hand, placed a spell on the ring she made Keelin wear. She says it's done. The ring is altered. She may keep the benefits minus the leash. And Klaus invites Elijah drinking. They cheer to a wretched day. He says as soon as Hope is better, they will leave as she is all that matters. And Elijah then nods. Haley comes over to Elijah asking him what he would have done to those kids had Vincent not found the loophole, and he leans down and says that anything he had to do, and Haley says she doesn't want this for her nor her daughter. They need to stop putting their family ahead of others, and she puts her hand gently on his face, says that they have to do better, and I would definitely agree. Definitely this is not what they should be doing. So Marcel meets Vincent at the bar, acknowledging how rough today was for him, but at least they were able to put an end to it. And, Vincent lost one of his most trusted allies in the process, but Vincent puts his glass up for Kinney. He explains the Hollow wanted them there. It wanted to come into their world by anchoring itself to one of them, and he wonders if they ended it, or if it is just getting started. I mean, obviously it's not over. So Hope wakes up to a plate full of treats. Vincent wonders if the Hollow hasn't already gotten to Marcel, asking him what he said when he was in the circle. He said he didn't say a thing. Hope then wanders through the destroyed mansion they used to call home. She climbs the stairs as Vincent tells Marcel he hopes he's right. He leans into Marcel, saying that nothing ever stays buried, which that's kind of like the tagline for the show, honestly. Nothing ever stays buried. So Marcel and Hope then both notice the lights flickering off and on for a few moments. Marcel picks up his drink, sees blue flashes behind him. He turns to see where the mirror was shattered by Elijah's body. He walks toward the mirror, staring directly into the light. Hope then walks towards her father, who turns around. His eyes are lightning blue. She screams, wakes up in her bed from what she just saw, crying out that it's here. The Hollow is here. There's no way they're going to be able to escape it. And that is the way this episode ends. Really incredible stuff overall. But let's just get into this episode and where I think we're going to go from here. So overall, guys, this was another really great episode. A lot of interesting stuff going on in this one. First of all, let's talk about this character of the Hollow, because officially we now have our villain of the season. I like this, not Kinney, because Kinney, again, I didn't see him as a villain. I saw him as an ally to Vincent and Cammy. I saw him as a police detective, who is, trying to figure out what the threat is. That's fine. I just didn't see him as a villain, so I'm honestly glad he was killed off, because I didn't see him as one. I think that, as good as the actor is, I just found him kind of wooden in that role. He didn't seem that threatening to me, and I didn't get that sense of urgency that the episode wanted me to get. But this character now I'm interested in seeing what's actually going to happen with the Hollow, because it seems like it's now connected to Marcel, and basically the Hollow is just beginning. It's still going to take these children. The children are still linked to what's going on, and this is basically just, the Hollow was trying to warn them. It was trying to get them to kill one of their own, and this was kind of just starting it all up. So who knows what else the Hollow has in store, and that's something I'm definitely interested in getting into. And I like it, again, it's a different kind of villain. It's actually linked to Hope, and not necessarily linked to Klaus. And I love Klaus' development in this episode, may I just say, primarily throughout the season, but, overall, I think they're doing a very good job with that. How Klaus doesn't want to be king. He just wants to be that father to Hope. He just wants to be, having that peaceful life with his family. There's been far too much trauma that he has endured throughout the years for him to want to be king. And yeah, I mean, after everything that Klaus has been through, I really don't blame him. There's been too much in his life, and he needs a break from it. And yeah, sure, he said 5 years as prisoner. I wouldn't really count that as a break, though. That's more as him basically just not being killed. I mean, essentially, he was away from his family for 5 years, and obviously he wants to be with them. He hasn't seen them for a long time, so I definitely like the way that we're going with that. And Marcel realizing that he needs to step up and be king, and that's kind of the role he needs to play here, I think is very interesting. But again, I don't think he's going to be able to handle the Hollow on his own. I think as much as he wants to believe that, it's impossible. The Hollow is just way too powerful for Marcel, and I think Marcel, he's gonna need a bigger enemy, just a bigger ally to take down the Hollow. I think Hope, Freya. I think he's gonna need all the Michelsons to really take out this threat, because I just think the Hollow is just way too powerful for him. I think that's something that he just needs to realize. Sure, he may have this united front and all these people on his side, and sure, he's created this community, but again, the witches are against him, as we know. So I don't really know if this is gonna work out well for Marcel. We'll have to see. As far as things are going between Freya and Keelin, I really like this duo. I like that Keelin is actually very loyal to the Michelsons. I like she's telling her, look, I got your back. I will take down Marcel if you want me to. And I think it's interesting where that's going to go, but I think Freya's going to realize that they kind of need Marcel at this point. Marcel, they need him to take down this big threat. This is a threat that obviously is threatening her, her niece, and she needs to do what she can to protect Hope, and that just needs to take principle over everything else. That's really how this is going to go, is that Hope is the one thing they need to keep track of. And then the only other thing to really talk about, I guess, is Elijah and Haley. I like that Elijah's willing to do anything for Hope. I really do. But this is definitely going to turn out, I think, a lot worse. Who knows who the Hollow is going to take on next? I don't really know what's going to happen there. It looks like next week it's going to be kind of like this battle between Klaus and Marcel, so I don't really know what that's all about. If Marcel's going to take the place of the Hollow, I don't really know at this point. But overall, guys, this was definitely a really great episode. I thought this was definitely, really solid stuff here. Like I said, my only problem is I just didn't really see Kinney as a villain, but I'm glad that Kinney is gone for now. I also love this episode did touch base on Haley and her relationship with the werewolves. I thought that was also really well done. How she abandoned them and she hasn't really been with them for 5 years, and that they really do hold a lot of hatred for her for that, which is understandable. I mean, if you were loyal to this coven, not a coven, but if you were loyal to this pack for so many years, and she stayed close to Ollie, she stayed close to Jackson, she was very close to those two. She married Jackson. I mean, it really seemed like Haley for a while was trying to stay with the wolves, but in the end, Michelson is what comes first, and that's really what matters more to her, is that her being a Michelson, even though she may not, legally, her name isn't Michelson, she is definitely a Michelson because she will protect that family over everything else, and I think that's really the thing that we're seeing here, is that Haley cares a lot more about the Michelsons than she does about her own pack, and I think it's going to be interesting to see really where that's going to go. I like seeing Haley be loyal to Hope. I like seeing her be that mother in her life, but I do think that pack is going to come bite her in her face, and I don't think it's going to end well for her. But overall, guys, this was another really great episode. I really am loving where the season is going. I don't know exactly where we're going to go from here. Now that the Hollow is out, I don't know what's going to happen from there, but overall, guys, definitely really did love this episode. I am going to give the originals Season 4, Episode 4, Keeper of the House, the same grade I gave the last episode, that being a 4.5 out of 5 or an A-. So for this episode of the originals, let me know what you guys thought of this episode overall, left your thoughts, and I'm officially originals. I know a lot of you have been waiting for my reviews, and glad they're still here, but that's this video. Hope you enjoyed. We'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for Feud, Betty and Joan. I know I have 2 episodes to watch. I'm going to try to catch up on that tonight, since that's like the only thing on TV I review for you guys that's on tonight, because, leftovers, things like that, that doesn't come out till next week, so really only Feud is the thing I need to watch tonight, and I'll try to get that out tonight. But also look forward, because I will be doing, finally, the April movie preview with FilmFan0599, so look forward to that as well. That's going to be live tonight. I don't know when that's actually going to go up, but it will be live tonight, so if you guys do want to check that out, definitely do so. But that's for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. We'll see you guys in my next video, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.